Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Guess what? The Mars lander, it's landed safely. The NASA Perseverance rover has been on a nearly 300 million mile journey since it left Earth more than 6 months ago. If all goes well, it is expected to land on Mars. Oh, I thought the title says Perseverance rover is coming in for a Mars landing today. I thought it actually said that it landed. I thought that's what I read. Did I read it wrong? Okay, I can't give false information. Go check it out for me, folks. Did it land or did it not land? I thought it landed. Anyhow, let's get busy. We have a great show for you today, and we want to get busy right away because we also have a great interview with the journalist that you see on MSNBC and CNN all the time, which is Benjamin Dixon. You're going to hear from Benjamin Dixon. We had a really nice quality conversation. I think you guys are going to like it. Anyhow, Texas is in trouble. The trouble in Texas continues. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to play a few videos about that. So what I want to do is let's go ahead and talk about what the show is. Texas Liar in Chief. Who is the Texas Liar in Chief? Greg Abbott. And it is imperative, folks, it is imperative that we call these guys out, not only among ourselves, but every time people make mention of the things they talk about, we need to talk about it. Okay, welcome aboard, Michael Rudnin. Photos posted by social media users on Wednesday purportedly show a mass cruise boarding a plane in Houston and then flying to Cancun. Yes, and I have the video. I didn't have enough time to turn around the video with the interview they gave him in Cancun. Texas mayor resigns after telling residents desperate for power and heat, only the strong will survive. This is what you get with libertarians and Republicans at their core. They don't give a damn about you. It is reason enough to elect them to office. It's reason enough not to elect them to office. Let me tell you something, folks. When I read that this morning, I couldn't believe it. The mayor of the city, I think it's Colorado something or the name of the city. I don't remember. I don't think you have it in there. But anyway, he had to resign. You elect a mayor to take care of the things you want to do. And he thinks, oh, you're on your own. It is preposterous. It is ridiculous. Welcome aboard AVQ, Pamela Mattox. Welcome aboard from Kentucky. Hey, why did you guys give us another person like you know whom? Anyhow, Michael Rodnin said, Egberto, give it an hour. It was going to be my next share. NASA's Perseverance Mars rover is scheduled to touch down on the red planet today. Or at least that's what NASA... Okay, I thought I read it wrong. That's why I kind of corrected myself right away. Yes, Colorado City, Texas. Linda E. Hi, all. Nancy Warjaski. Oh, Nancy said it just landed. So that is great. I guess I wasn't misinformed. The link that came in was actually correct. Anyhow, title of the show... Texas Liar in Chief. Journalist Benjamin Dixon discusses independent media and identity politics. Texas has its own liar in chief. Journalist Benjamin Dixon discusses independent media, and we also talk identity politics. But anyway, we're going to start with Ted Cruz, that story that Michael Rudnin just put on top there. We actually did a little video about that. So let's go ahead and get started with Brother Cruz. Texas, run by a lying cabal to fool the people into believing that what they believe in is best for them. Of course, we have the worst health care we have for the masses, that is. We have poor energy, even as we are the largest energy exporter in the country. Imagine that. And we can't even keep the power on because, of course, we don't follow the rules. We don't follow science. We don't follow what is really efficient for people, but instead efficient just for corporations. And what would you know? The master of deregulation, the master of small government, the master of complaining. Where is he? In Cancun? Oh, amazing, folks. Amazing. Let's listen to this and then take it on the other side.
This has basically been a low regulation mindset, deregulation mindset, small government, you name it, 25 years sort of Republican governance philosophy here. Is that what is going to be on the ballot in the next 18 months as we unpack what all happened here?
Well, there have to be consequences for this, and I think you're going to have a lot of finger pointing between now and the next state elections in 2022. But there's no question that, you go up the mountain, you come down the mountain. We went up the mountain riding the deregulation wave, riding the slavish devotion to markets wave, riding the independence from the Fed's wave, and riding the, bragging about our own awesomeness wave. And none of that looks very good right now, whether you're in Cancun or Texas. The reality is that we look pretty bad to ourselves and to the rest of the country. And what worked in Texas did not work in this case. It spectacularly failed. And it's not over, by the way. We're still in the middle of this. There are still lots of people without power, lots of people without water. It was snowing again this morning here in Austin and other parts of the state. And there's going to be hell to pay. And there will be consequences. Whether they're at the ballot box or whether those get pushed off onto somebody else remains to be seen.
I should, for viewers that are wondering about your Cancun reference, if they haven't been following social media, Ted Cruz, the state's junior senator, did own up to the fact that, yes, he took a trip to Cancun. He said it was for his daughters and that he has now flown home, and it was part of he didn't try to explain it away beyond his daughters had a break and he wanted to go there. He's not the first elected official caught in the wrong locale during a natural disaster, and I'm certain he won't be the last.
We spend a lot of time. His state is freezing. His people are suffering. Here in Houston, people have no water. People have to boil their water, rather. But he's off to Cancun. He's not with the people that he wants to support. He's not with the people that the deregulation that he supports have put them in this situation. Yes, they at the ballot box, things need to be taken care of. Look, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different results. We need to urge Texans. We elected these people. They denied us the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act, which means we sacrifice over 2,000 Texans every year. We kill them every year. Now we killed more because we decided to follow the corporate mantra of spend as little on to provide services to people as we maximize profits for the few, the shareholders and the executive bonuses. Are we going to continue supporting people whose modus operandi is that? Or are we going to start electing people who are going to really do what Texas needs, what the United States of America needs? It is up to us. Again, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and somehow expecting a different result. Absolutely, and that is a classic definition of insanity. By the way, folks, we are taking calls. Anybody want to call in? The Zoom number is 346-248-7799. Again, that is 346-248-7799. The code to get in is 254-600-9091. And I placed it into the feed for both YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So you can find it in every one of those feeds. By the way, replying to Bridge MCP, on January 6th, the efforts to cast doubt on the legitimacy of the election and our very democracy resulted in the violent and treasonous storming of the Capitol and the loss of life. Absolutely so, Michael Rudnin replying to Bridge MCP. Anyhow, folks, we have another one that I want to play for you, and then we'll take it on the other side, because this one has to do with our very, very, very lying governor. Look, people might say, he's lying. Everybody knows that he lies. Just leave it alone. Let it go. I want everybody here, left, right, middle, or whatever, to hear me out well. If you believe in truth, if you believe in what's good for people, if you hear a lie that has a material impact on people, a material impact on our society, it is important that you not fall for the lies or allow the lies to fester, allow the lies to metastasize. Let me give an example with what Greg Abbott did, the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. We have a complete grid failure in Texas, right? Our wind power generates at max about 23% of our power. Regulations were not created to allow that force these wind turbines to work in conditions necessarily that we had with a freeze coming down. I mean, they work in Iowa just fine. They work in Antarctica just fine. They work in Denmark just fine. We didn't specify regulations. Remember, this is Texas. We don't care about regulations. But anyhow, we allowed them to build it at will. But even as they built it that way, incorrectly, meaning not taking into account that weather could be a problem, we got half of those wind turbines continue to function, and those that function generated more electricity because, as I told you from physics, as the temperature of air falls, the density increases. The same velocity of air at a lower temperature gives you more power than that same velocity of air at a higher temperature. So you got more power out of those turbines. Now, those turbines that went off, some of them are always off, are generally off anyway. But anyhow, we needed them now. But that wasn't the problem. We get power from coal. We get power from oil. We get power from gas. We get power from nuclear. And guess where the majority of the power was lost? It was lost in gas because we couldn't get the gas to the power stations because they were not winterized. They were not winterized, so we couldn't get the power to them. So that's power gone from the fossil fuel industries. Even the nuclear power plant had to be shut down. Why again? Come on, you don't just throw those cadmium rods down to kill the nuclear power plant. The power plants had to go down because they couldn't get the right gauges working. The gauges froze. And then there's the coal plants. They have coolants and they have to work in all temperatures as well. Guess what? Oh my God, they failed. The minimal failure was the wind turbines were not the problem. If these generators, the oil generators, the gas generators, the nuclear power, the coal generators had continued to function, we would not have had a problem. But then what we have is Gregory Abbott saying the reason Texas is frozen is because of the Green New Deal. And then you have that other guy from Fox News saying, we didn't even know when it happened. We didn't even know when the Green New Deal came to Texas, but it came, and look at what happened. Texas is run by Republicans. All major offices in Texas are run by Republicans. All the permits to create the wind farms, Republicans. All the permits to create ERCOT. All the permits to deregulate. Look, it is the mantra of the Republican Party. ERCOT is the exact instantiation of republicanism. Very little regulation, laissez-faire, and the market is supposed to function the way you think it is the best for us all. But the market doesn't function the best for people. The market functions the best for those who profit from it. And that's why we need to have some in the market and some not in the market. In other words, things like power and healthcare do not belong in the market. But here's the piece that I want to play for you. Many want us to ignore what the lying governor of Texas is doing, right? He's going all over the place and talking, and just about every other word, just like our former president, he's lying to the American people. Specifically, he's lying to his people because most progressives, most others don't believe what he's saying because they know better. But we have to call it out. We can't let these lies go unanswered. When you let lies go unanswered, you get insurrections like you got in Washington, D.C., where good people do bad things. Good people think that they've been taken advantage of and they act accordingly. Just as well, we could have Texans believing that somehow green energy for them, meaning wind power, solar power, is a bad deal for them, because look at what happened to Texas. But it wasn't that Texas had a real issue with power. It was the regulations. It was our structure that allowed the problem. Windmills, we have windmills in Antarctica, we have windmills in Alaska, we have windmills all over the place, and they work fine if the regulations are there to force them to follow the rules. But even our power plants went down, our coal plants went down, our gas plants went down, our oil plants went down. You know why? Because it was their equipment were frozen. The water in was frozen. The gas coming in was frozen. The problem wasn't wind. The wind was a very minor problem. In fact, the windmills that continued to work overperformed. Why did they overperform? Because dense air gives you more bang for each increased speed in the wind flow. That's a physics matter. But anyhow, let's go ahead and listen to Chris Hayes, how he really took down the governor. A necessary takedown for a lying governor that should not be reelected because he is trying to fool his citizens. He's lying to the citizens, and he has simply been incompetent. Check this out.
Real governing failure. And the person at the head of the Texas government took the time to go on Fox News last night to push the big lie that Republicans and right-wing media have been pushing for days. A brazen, jaw-dropping lie that the hippie libs and their clean energy are to blame for the devastation in Texas.
The Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America. Texas is blessed with multiple sources of energy, such as natural gas and oil and nuclear, as well as solar and wind. But you saw from what Trace said, and that is our wind and our solar got shut down, and they were collectively more than 10% of our power grid. And that thrust Texas into a situation where it was lacking power in a statewide basis. If the Biden administration is going to try to eradicate fossil fuels in the United States, every state is going to constantly have challenges like what America has seen take place in Texas right now.
That's not true, just to be clear, the idea that wind and solar completely went out and thrust the state into that situation. In fact, the governor was spinning a different tale when he spoke to a local news outlet just before he went on Fox News, not mentioning wind or solar or green energy at all, instead placing the blame on natural gas.
The companies that generate the power, their operations have frozen up or have tripwired and are non-operational. That is the lead reason why there is a shortage of power for the people who are lacking power right now. There is an additional reason causing a lack of natural gas arriving to power generation centers across the state, and that's because the ability to both manufacture and to ship and transport natural gas has been frozen also. It's frozen in the pipeline. It's frozen at the rig. It's frozen in the transmission line.
Natural gas is frozen everywhere. That's a big part of the problem, the catastrophe. That's what he's telling Texans. And he goes on national Fox News to say that it's the Green New Deal. This is the crazy blame game the governor of Texas is playing while his constituents are freezing in their homes without power or heat, some for the third straight day. But to the purveyors of the big lie, Republicans like Greg Abbott and his friends on Fox News, this very real and acute suffering is just a vehicle for their political objections. They are trying to convince Americans that the state of J.R. Ewing and the Houston Oilers, the capital of American fossil fuel extraction, was actually covertly turned into a lefty bastion of green energy while no one was looking, and that's the source of the problem.
So, unbeknownst to most people, the Green New Deal came to Texas. The power grid in the state became totally reliant on windmills. Then it got cold and the windmills broke, because that's what happens in the Green New Deal. You're without power. Millions are still without power tonight.
Yes, while you weren't looking, you hear that quote? Unbeknownst to most people, Texas became some sort of hippie commune, totally reliant on windmills and rainbows and flower power. Totally reliant. He actually said that about Texas. Was it unbeknownst to the Republican leadership of the state, who have occupied nearly every statewide office in Texas for decades? A Democrat has not won statewide in decades? Did Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 10 years ago at the tender age of 21 parachute into the state of Texas to put up windmills under cover of night? Or she and Al Gore driving through the Permian Basin, secretly unplugging all the rigs? How stupid does Tucker think his audience is exactly? It's just a lie. It's not a dishonest mischaracterization or spin or omission. It's just a straight out ridiculous lie. Now, Texas does have a lot of wind power. It's true. But wind power makes up only a fraction of Texas's energy in the winter. Governor Abbott said himself, wind and solar only make up 10% of the grid. There are real material consequences here, as so many people go into a third freezing night. The immediate priority must be figuring out a way to get power and heat to people who desperately need it, as well as clean water, amidst a severe weather event and infrastructure that is simply overwhelmed by it right now.
Let me tell you, I don't only do internet media, internet radio, internet videos, etc. I also have the honor of being on the radio, a high-powered FM station, KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. And I am so honored to be actually on the airwaves that belong to us all, that I think before I throw something up into the ethos. I make sure that what I am talking about is not going to hurt somebody, is not going to mislead somebody, because I know behind the mic, and when that stuff hits that 100,000 watt transmitter, I know there are a lot of people listening there. There are a lot of people who trust what they hear coming over these waves, because not everybody is given the honor, the opportunity to use these airwaves that have access to all. And I give that same reverence to our internet audience and our on-air audience. There is a certain something, responsibility, one should feel when there are others listening on the other side and likely accepting that as truth. What Tucker Carlson did, what Governor Abbott is doing, lying is a part of it, but lying in this form that has a material effect not only on today, but on tomorrow and on going forward in what people believe about things that they need, energy, green energy, renewable energy, that is unforgivable, completely unforgivable. And it is high time that not only Governor Abbott pay for it by not getting reelected, but that Tucker Carlson is taken off the air for misusing that resource that belongs to us all. Okay, folks, next we're going to go and listen to that very talented, knowledgeable Benjamin Dixon. He is one of those independent media folks that you've seen on MSNBC and CNN. In fact, during the election, you saw him quite a bit on MSNBC. But before that, I got to do my pitch to say, hey, folks, if you are on YouTube, please go ahead and click that join button. Become a member. If you become a member, I go ahead and throw you up on the screen. If you want me to, your character up there so that others can see it. How can you become a member of our YouTube or PDR Posse? To become a member of our PDR Posse, again, if you're on YouTube, click the join button. But if you are on Twitch, if you're on Facebook Live, if you are on anywhere else, just click politicsdoneright.com/YouTube, politicsdoneright.com/YouTube. Alternatively, you can go ahead and become a patron of our program. To become a patron of our program, go to politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon, politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. You can alternatively as well support us via PayPal. That is politicsdoneright.com/PayPal, politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. We have that book that you see on screen. That book on screen is called How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Neighbors, your right-wing family, friends, and neighbors. That helps us as well. It helps us defray the costs of doing this. It helps us maintain this program. You can go ahead and buy that book. directly at Amazon. I've just put the link in there. Or you can buy all of our books at our own store or at Amazon, that is, at politicsdoneright.com/store, where you can get our hoodies and all that good stuff out there. If you want to see what we have a new mug. The mug was designed by Bridge MCP, one of our PDR Posse members. In fact, who we call the leader of our PDR MCP, our PDR Posse. That's Bridge MCP who designed that mug there, the one that you see on the screen right now. So go ahead and get the mug. By getting the mug, you're supporting what we do. We have Norman who's already gotten the mug. And by the way, where are all the other pictures from the folks who bought it that I begged over the screen to say, hey, I see you're buying the mugs, but please go ahead and send us a picture with the mug. I know some of you are camera shy, but you know what? We want to highlight our peeps, and you know all of you out there are our peeps. So anyway, go to that link, the link to go ahead and get the cup. Let me put the link for the cup in there. Here is the link to go ahead and get the PDR Posse cup. The PDR Posse cup put out there by whom? Bridge MCP. Bridge, tell the whole unit hello, Bridge, and let us have you with the picture with your cup soon. We do ask you so kindly. Anyhow, folks, please find a way to support us if you have the wherewithal to. But most of all, come via Patreon or go ahead and join us at YouTube by just clicking that join button. And you can always hit the super chat or one of those as well. I thank you so kindly for being here. Anyhow, let's go ahead and go with El Señor Benjamin Dixon. Benjamin, well, I'll explain who he is in the piece. Here we go. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Today we have a very special guest. I am honored to be with Benjamin Dixon. Ben Dixon, on TV, you usually hear about him. Benjamin Dixon is the creative director for East and 42nd and host of Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon. He is a journalist that unearthed the audio clips of presidential candidate and former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg advocating controversial stop and frisk policies. He has written for The Guardian, and he sometimes appears on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar. And guess where he appears now with Politics Done Right? Ben, it's my pleasure to have you here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. That was a heck of an introduction. So thank you so much for that. And I'm more than honored to be here with you today.
Well, look, let me tell you, you do some very good work. And I want to take you back to 2015.
Yeah.
You, on your Facebook page, 42nd and East and 42nd, you have the first video out there is a good microcosm of why we need independent media by all.
Yeah.
You did that video about the Black father.
Oh, wow.
About that interview. I didn't tell you I was going to talk about that.
Oh, I forgot all about that video.
You know what? I want to start this interview with that because that is the exact reason why we must have independent media by people of all ethnicities, etc. Talk to me a little bit about that video.
You know, it really was my first video. It literally was the first video I ever put out. And it came as a result of somebody, they were well-meaning, and I'm not trying to, I'm not one of those I'm sufficiently woke, but I'm not one of those super woke who can't take a compliment. But there was a white couple that passed by our table at dinner back in 2015, and they were like, "Oh, your kids are so well behaved," and I'm like, "Thank you." But then I thought about it and I processed it, and I'm like, "But this is just kind of like what we do." I know it's not everybody, not every father is a good father, whether you're black, white, or other, but, from my family, this is just what we do with my friends, my circles. Like we pour everything we can into our children and into our family units. And so I just wanted to make the statement that I'm just an average black father. Like whatever accolades people give me in terms of like my beautiful family, it's like, but this is what I see. I know the narrative is not like that in the media, but exactly why we needed independent media, because in every aspect of my world, everywhere I travel, from the religious experience when I used to be a part of the black church, real heavy, to the political world, like I'm just an average black father. I'm not something special. So that was the spirit behind that very first video. I completely forgot about it, man. Thanks for that's a throwback.
Well, I mean, what's interesting about it, Ben, is that what I find, right, is anytime I get a call, or it used to be, anytime I get a call that somebody wanted you on their network or whatever, it is usually to talk about black issues,
That's it.
right?
Yep.
Now, interestingly, when I started doing this yay yonder with the coffee party and other organizations,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
never, yeah, I never covered black issues. I covered
Right.
issues. If one
Right.
of them happened to be black, it
Right.
is okay.
It is what it is.
Right, it is what it is. And so but the interesting thing is I also made the cognitive, I actually decided that I wasn't going to cover them unless it was substantive, because again, I didn't want to be typecast, right?
Right. Right.
Still, what we find is a lot of times when we're called, that is what we're called for. What I was impressed with, which you did some stints at MSNBC, either MSNBC or CNN, I don't quite remember which one it was.
Uh,
And
I mostly MSNBC, and I've done one spot on CNN, if I remember
right,
correctly. Yeah. Yeah.
what I found is that they asked you a multitude of questions, not
Yeah.
solely relegated to race. So tell me about how you made that transition, because I can look at the earlier times and see that they would want you to talk a lot of race, but then they started to realize, well, this guy is a lot deeper than just talking about racial issues. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, first, let me say thank you for having me on. Thank you for these questions, because I don't ever get asked these questions, and I appreciate these questions. I'm black, and I'm unapologetic about my blackness. I think that the solution to the majority of what ails this country can be found in the black experience, because black people have had to survive this country. We've had to survive slavery, Jim Crow, white supremacy. Heck, we have had to survive the greed of American capitalism. And so I'm very unapologetic about my blackness. But that said, it's like, don't typecast me, because, not, and don't typecast anyone who's black, because we've studied America. We've studied foreign policy. We've studied economics, literally. My undergrad is in economics. My master's is in political science with a focus on international relations. I'm almost done with a PhD. I just ran out of money a couple of years ago. That was before I got rid of Michael Bloomberg. I couldn't finish my PhD in international relations, but we've studied these things because we study them because it's our life. And so, to limit us on their media channels to just talk about race is such a disservice to the wide range of expertise that you get when you talk to a black person, just like you would talk to anyone. Don't typecast anyone. Yeah.
What's interesting is you said it right, but you also earlier you spoke about white supremacy, etc. That actually feeds into white supremacy, because as it turns out, the only way we can have white supremacy is if the majority of white people think that you are the other and you live some sort of a sub life.
Or
And
something exotic, like, ooh, what are you, that also, like, no, we're human beings who are studying the same problems you're studying. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, please do. I please do continue.
Yeah, no, but that's the spirit of it, right? What you said that feeds into white supremacy, right? Typecasting black voices, brown voices, Muslim voices. Like, what the reason I'm doing it the way I'm doing it now, which is independent. Like, we Eastern 42nd is a media company that we built. My wife and I, we built with my partner. We're building it so that we can tell not just our stories, but we can speak on the issues without someone first typecasting us, right? And wanting to have our voices without what we actually want to say. I don't know if you've ever run into this, and I'm sure you have. You've been doing this long enough to run into it. People love to have tokenism. Like, they love to have a black person who will come on and say stuff that they want to hear, right? So in that way, they want to hear our voices, but they don't sometimes genuinely want to hear what we have to say, because what we have to say really upends this system. Because, like I said, we've been studying it and we have a good tap on what's going on in this country. So it's just really a fascinating balance that you have to take. Because my first time being on mainstream media, they wanted me to talk about race. And there was the CNN segment, and I pivoted right to the issues that I talk about best, which are economic issues. And I have to give it to MSNBC. Like, most of their invites for me have been about politics and national politics, and rarely about like just a race component. But if they let me talk long enough, then of course, race plays into everything that
It
happens
plays into
in this country.
economics.
Absolutely.
Capitalism.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. I want to hear you.
Well,
I'm enjoying the conversation.
I want to tell you two minor stories, because it feeds into exactly what you said. I interview a lot of people. I interview, I have a lot of white friends, black friends, all kinds of friends. And this woman was a good friend of mine. She was trying to, with what's been going on in the country, get her church to be more inclusive. Most of them believe
Yeah.
they don't have a racial problem. She's in an all-white church, and she had enough confidence in me to talk to me, and we started talking on a Zoom, a private Zoom. And she said she wanted to self-examine herself, because she grew up in the South, and she said there's not a possibility that I couldn't hold some sort of racial issue. So she said she self-examined, and then she said, "You know what I found, Egberto?" She says, "I am, I don't, I like living in an integrated community, but I think I would have an issue if I were the minority in the community."
Oh.
She had enough confidence in me to tell me that story. And then she said, and then I said, "Why?" And then she said, "Maybe because I think they wouldn't want me. Maybe because," and she says she's not sure, but she gave all these reasons, right? And then I asked her, I said, "Look, this is a private conversation. We were talking on Zoom. May I use this conversation? Because I think your honesty could teach a whole lot of people that,"
Yeah.
because she says she's trying to overcome it, right?
Right. Right.
And she said, "You think it'll make a difference?" And I said, "Of course it will." And she put it out there. So the reason I'm telling that story, it is because there are certain things, even the progressives that we talk about, right? It is
Come on.
intrinsic as well, that same racial attitude. It's just that they're on the progressive side trying to do things by policy better than
Yeah.
on the other side.
Yeah.
One quick one, I at Netroots. I'm always at Netroots on Radio
Yeah.
Row, etc.
Yeah.
And we were at Netroots, and after the Black Lives Matter incident with Bernie Sanders occurred, we saw people typing, "I've never been scared like this before in my life." We
That
were
was
talking,
2015 too, right? It was like 2015,
yes,
2016. Yeah,
yes,
I remember
and
that.
this was Tia also and all these other activists that were the ones that were doing it. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
then I went outside and I want to do interviews. So I am talking to these guys, and I saw these four white guys and a white girl. They were there talking together, and I said, "Great, let me go up and talk to them. Hey, what do you think about the Black Lives Matter event that the Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter insurrection that we just had there in at the Net
It was
Roots?"
Arizona back then. I'm trying to remember, but yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
it
I
was
remember, yeah.
Arizona, exactly. So one of the guys said, "You didn't want to talk," and then she said, "I'll say something," and then the other guy said, "Okay, you go be there. Go be his token white." This is at Net Roots.
Fascinating.
Net Roots. So I wrote.
Fascinating.
I didn't only write her story. I wrote the story about what occurred to show that we as progressives, right, suffer the same. We are humans. That's what it is. We are humans. Whether
Yeah.
you're right or left, the right
Yes.
believes in doing things a certain way. The left in a. But let's not try to make the racial thing somehow on one side only. Because
Yes. Thank you for sharing those stories with me, because one of the number one problems we've had, that I've had personally, professionally, politically, and quite frankly, this country has been the problem of white progressives understanding how, even if they're well intentioned, they still are part of a system that has to be addressed. And the best way I can explain the emotional pain and embarrassment and their reticence to address it is to compare it to the conversations that I've been really hesitant about having with my wife about how, as woke as I think I am, I still have a role in this patriarchal system, even if it's the role I play in my household.
right.
I don't want to have those conversations, but I have to have them if I'm going to really honor what I believe. And what I believe in is the liberation of all people from all people. No one should be subservient to anyone in a power structure. We are all human. We are all human beings. We all have the wonderful gift of sentience. We all have the wonderful gift of consciousness and life. And so if my true motivation is the liberation of all people, then I have to take a moment and pause and reflect the way in which I serve as an oppressor. And it sounds weird as being a black man saying that, but after being in the pandemic with my wife for the last year, I had to learn some things about myself that I didn't want to hear. And I think progressives, especially white progressives, I need you to understand that lesson. It's like, it's not comfortable. It's not fun to understand how you've been complicit with the system and how sometimes your own words, like you mean well. I mean well. My wife would tell you that I'm probably the best husband she could have ever married, and I mean well, but at the same time, meaning well doesn't mean you're not a part of a broken system that has to be addressed. And as so long as progressives and white progressives ignore that reality, we're going to be continuously failing to obtain power to make the kind of changes that we want to make. Because black people listen, black people hear it. They may never say it, as clearly to us as they said it to you, but we feel it at an intuitive level. Like we kind of just know it. And those are issues that we have to address because we need to solidify this allyship, this solidarity that we have between us. We need to solidify it because we have some serious fights that we need to fight together.
Man, Ben, what you brought up was deep. It goes with the church, and it's less centralized on black church. It goes with the black church that has that horrendous patriarchy. Well,
still
and
to this day,
so much so that a larger percentage of men supported, whom in chief.
Yeah.
But again, I'm glad that you said that because personally, I've had to, I'm black, I'm Latino, I'm Caribbean. Okay, all these things in one package, which means I came with all those sins,
right?
Homophobia, sexism, deep in where I'm from, and I can honestly say I've overcome them because again, being intentional, as you spoke about earlier with your wife, and understanding that if we are talking about liberating, we have to make sure that all women, men, black, white, absolutely every identity. Somebody asked me one time, they said, Egberto, you are always doing identity politics. And I'm like, why? I'm not necessarily racial politics, but identity politics. Right. And I'm like, I want identity politics. You have to have identity politics until identity doesn't make a difference. Right. But until it does, we have to take care of, if women are discriminated apart in this format, we have to take care of that. If black folk are discriminated in this format, we take care of it. If white poor people are discriminated in this particular format, we have to take care of it. And that is where that is where we are supposed to land. And so I think
how is it that this is the first time we're speaking together, man? Like we're part of the same tribe. Like I'm from Mississippi, so I mean I'm not from the Caribbean.
I'm from the South, brother. I'm from the South. I'm from Panama.
but like what you're saying speaks to my heart at a level that I'm so glad to be doing this interview with you, because like we have identity specific problems in this country. Right. And so until we address those identity specific problems, you better sure as hell believe we got to talk about identity politics. But then we also have to be flexible enough to understand how systems can use identity politics as a way to maintain white supremacy, capitalism, all these other problems that we have. So, man, thank you for inviting me on.
Look, there's another terminology that I've started to use, and that is because, I think we've all figured this out, and that is, a lot of people look at white supremacy and they look at their white brothers and sisters, my white neighbors, etc. And they're white supremacists and all of that. And the fact of the matter is, no. The fact of the matter is, all those white people that are at these progressive events that are mostly white, generally speaking, you've been to them, you see them. Yes. Okay. We are trying to solve a national problem, but they're mostly white, and there's structural reasons why. These are the folks that have more money. They don't have to go to work. They can do these things. So that's understood. Right. But they are victims themselves of white supremacy. A lot of people don't like when I say that, but let me try to
break it down, because I get it, but break it down for me.
Right. White supremacy isn't, they are the tools of white supremacy. White supremacy is there for the plutocracy. In other words, the very top few, it's a caste system. Yes. And absolutely. You can use identities to actually work your caste system. And what is one of the biggest identities? White. If you can control whites by putting them above the others and say, you have some power because you are not them. Yeah. You can keep that white level under control. So there's another concept that I try to teach people about our form of capitalism. And that is, remember, we are all what I call antiseptic slaves. So whereas slavery was color based, right now you don't know it, but we're all antiseptic slave. You doubt it? Try to change the system on your own. You can't.
Watch this. Not only try to change the system on your own, watch how the system responds to you, no matter what color you are. If you try to address capitalism, right? If you try to address white supremacy underneath, right? We saw this with the George Floyd protest. One of the things that broke me, but also encouraged me, was seeing so many quote unquote soccer moms, whatever, however people want to label them, out there protesting on behalf of Black lives. It was a beautiful thing to see. What also broke me was that the fact that cops were like, we don't care. We don't care if you're a white soccer mom and wine mom or liberal or anything. They were beating down those moms. They cracked the skull of that brother, our white brother in Buffalo. Those cops just got off this week. Like, they got off with it. And it shows me that, this system will crush anybody it has to in order to preserve that power structure that you're talking about.
Prescient.
It will destroy anybody. And you're absolutely right. It is a system. James Baldwin spoke to this, right? In his debate with William F. Buckley, I believe it was at Cambridge, and he was talking about the woman at the Western Union, who he clearly is making way more money than at that time, but at least she had the feeling and the sensation of, at least I'm not Black. Right. But here she is, a poor woman working at the counter at Western Union, having to cash his checks. But she still had an air of arrogance towards him. Little did she realize how much of a victim of the system she was herself.
Exactly. And I think, and I think that is where we as progressives sort of fail, and what I think we can do as independent media, right? We have to show the commonality between, I have a phrase I use on my show all the time. When we unite first of all, it's a stereotype, but you're going to get it. When we unite Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, we are going to win this fight. Because right now, all the forces are kept to keep poor white people or average white folk away from Black folk, away from Latino folks. Houston is a majority minority city, but the power base in Houston, Texas, where I'm based, isn't. And why? Because you have all these other people fighting for crumbs, because they don't realize they can actually have the entire pie.
You gotta be careful with all that revolutionary talk you're talking there, brother. They'll come after us. We talk like that too much. But what you're speaking to really cuts to the core of the life of Fred Hampton in the new movie that's out, Judas and the Black Messiah, right?
Yes.
One of the things that he really focused on very like a laser was the ability to unite. Not unite with racists or Nazis or anything of that sort, but to unite with poor white people who could understand that the way out of this broken system was through solidarity. And that solidarity didn't ask for us to ignore race. See, there are people who want us to make some alliances today in 2021 that require that we ignore identity, right? No. Fred Hampton was trying to build something where we understand the role that we all play in the oppression of each other. But if we recognize that way that we oppress each other, then we can look and see who the real oppressor is, which is the top 1% and all the ruling elite.
Exactly. And the thing about trying to look, I tell folks, I will always want Italian food, soul food, Chinese food, all these kind of foods. Coming together doesn't mean losing one's identity. Absolutely. As the masses would like you to believe. I like my Panamanian food, and who is one of the best cookers of Panamanian foods? My American wife.
There you go.
There you go. My Southern wife, who knows how to make. She can make greens, and she can make arroz con pollo.
I love it. Listen, when this is all over, half of my family lives in Houston. So first of all, I'm glad you look like you're doing well despite that weather that you guys are having there. Glad everyone is safe. But when this is all over, I'm coming to Houston.
And you know what? You'll have a place to stay, my brother. But anyhow, I just kind of wanted to have a chat with you, pick your brain on a few things. And I think we spoke of as far as how important independent media is, especially so that somebody like you can get a real message out as opposed to stereotyping, as opposed to putting you in a box or whatever. What would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
when you can come on my show, and I would like to schedule you like next week or something. Yeah.
I'll be on your show whenever you want me on your show, man. I have a whole lot of respect for you. I think you do very, very good
Thank you.
work. And
Thank you.
not only that, I think we need a hell of a lot more of you.
Thank you, man.
We need young. I imagine you're a millennial or a millennial.
I am. You nailed it. Like I'm right on the cusp. I'm a 1980 baby. So like, depending on who you ask, I'm a millennial or a Gen Xer. I just say I'm both.
Well, you know,
I'm an elder millennial.
I'm a, I'm on the cusp of Boomer Gen X. I
Okay.
claim the Gen X because
There you
I'm
go.
trying like hell.
I am too. That's why I'm claiming the millennials. I'm like, oh, just let me just be a millennial for one more year. But reality, man, I'm over the hill. I just turned 40, so I'm it's
Oh,
time
you're
for me
young,
to-
brother. You're young. But you know, I am 59. You're young.
Oh man, well
Yes.
you the one. You look great, man.
Well, I try to do the right things, but what can I say?
Hey, that's amazing. That's
But
amazing.
look, let me tell you, Ben, it's been my honor to have you on Politics Done Right. Please
Yeah.
don't become a stranger. If you ever have something to say to the audience that we have here, please just, give me a call. Say, Berto, I need to be on. I want to come and say that. So thank you so kindly for
Absolutely,
having me.
absolutely, and please keep an eye out for an invite because I want to get you on next week or the next, whatever's convenient for your schedule.
I'll be there. Thank you, my brother.
All right, take care, man.
Have a good one.
You too. Now.
Hey folks, that was Ben. I really love this guy. I love the way this guy think. I love the way this guy presents the message. A very, very, very smart young man that all of us can learn from. I know I learned from him. So I mean, I think we got to keep up. You know what is a great thing? I always say if I learn something from absolutely everybody that I talk to, and that is what makes one grow. And I wish we could tell some conservatives and some progressives as well. There's nothing wrong with sitting down and listening to somebody, picking their minds to kind of see how things work. It expands yours. It is that easy. We got 6 minutes or so. So first, let me go ahead and salute all my great, beautiful people here. Eric Hayes, ¿cómo estás, hermano? Michael Rodnin, Bridge MCP, welcome. Hey, folks, Bridge MCP is the director of the PDR Posse. Don't forget that, my brothers and my sisters. Yeah, I'm going to be on Ben's show sometime soon. Let's see. May Wood, welcome aboard. Linda E., welcome aboard. ¿Quién más está aquí? Hey, Mary McKay Curo. Thank you for liking the discussion, my friend. How you doing? I hope you're okay here in Houston. I hope no broken pipes. I hope everything is okay. Let us know. Lee Grant, welcome aboard. Lee, are you giving me trouble today? Let me see. We need a strong central authoritarian socialized government to give all the identity groups what they are due. Lee Grant, we're going for coffee, brother. We are going for coffee. You and I got a lot to talk about because we got to really get some stuff straight, brother. Still love you, man. Carl Cox. Biden is betraying the college students by only wanting to forgive $10,000 in debt. From having a kid that's going to be in a lot of debt after college, I want to feel the same way. But I'm in some discussions with Professor Dr. Tice. I've had him on before. And I have to study that situation about forgiving all student debt. And I think all of you should withhold your judgment on Biden until you hear some of what the professor has to say. But let me just say one thing. I think for people at the lower end of the thing, I don't think $50,000 is enough. But for people at the higher end of the spectrum, let's say a stockbroker who has an MBA but is collecting money off of capital gains, etc., I don't want to give him $50,000. I want to give him zero. But that's another show. We'll talk about Carl Cox. But hang with us, Carl. Let's get the professor to tell us exactly his thoughts on that one. Julie Van Osdel, welcome aboard. Tolerance and acceptance of each other's differences is the only way we will ever achieve unity. From your words to our collective brains. Michael Rodden, I got you. Deb Denny, please do more shows together. People need to hear this. Thank you so kindly, Deb. AVQ, welcome aboard. Lee Grant, I see you're still giving trouble, Lee Grant. Come on now, behave yourself. May Wood, welcome aboard. May, having difficult sharing the show as well. May, you can just go ahead and click on the side of the thing that says share. And if you can't, if it doesn't allow you to share from the YouTube channel itself, you can simply go ahead and you can click on the link to pick up the link and then copy the link to wherever you want, either email or whatever. If you still have a problem, drop me a line, info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com. Let's see, Brige MCP, Maywood, Michael Rudnin, I got you. Linda E. Egberto rocks. More need to hear from him. Hey, thank you, girlfriend. Love that. Biology isn't bigotry. That must be coming from Tank 28. Tank, behave yourself now. Okay, let's continue. Julie Van Asdel, welcome aboard. Bruce Pollard, how you doing, my brother? Nice to see you here. He says, hello to all. Percy landed safety on Mars. Whoop, whoop. We did it. Science conquers all. Those who don't believe in science, good luck, brothers. Okay, let's see. Insulin, Julie Van Assel, Pamela Matax, welcome aboard. Pamela says, we all live under the same system. Imperialism, capitalism. And what we have to do is changeism. And we will have changeism. That's why we do shows like this. That's why we do blogs. That's why we do all those things. Collectively, there are now thousands of us doing these types of programming to get around the plutocracy through only the commercial media. It'll happen. Norman Reynolds, how you doing, my brother? Norman is an engineer of engineers. He turned, the water that damaged a whole lot of people that people spend hours and thousands of dollars on. Norman just go whoop, 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 and it's done. He had a little bit of problem, like knockout, genius. We have a genius engineer on board, and we have a genius chemist on board as well. Okay, let's continue. Para ver quién más está aquí. Julie Van Assel. Paul Fleming, how you doing, Paul? We will never get over stereotypes. I've heard he's so well-spoken as a child and as a business consultant, as a father. I've heard, and I tell that all the time to my white brothers and sisters. When you look at me or Dixon or Paul and you say, all these, I just called 3 black men. And you say, something like, oh, you are so XYZ. I know you mean well. But let me tell you what that is like. That is like telling somebody, how should I say it? Because first of all, you guys know how I think. Do what you feel, and if somebody tells you that is not the right thing, then you respond. Because I don't want people to be hesitant dealing with people. The only way we're going to get across all this ethnic kind of thing is if you feel free to screw up. That's what I tell, when I was a chauvinist, that's what I used to tell women. Allow me to screw up so you can teach me. If I can screw up, you can teach me. If I am trying everything not to screw up, I'm not going to do anything. And that part of my brain that is incorrect will remain incorrect. But what I mean by this is this. A lot of times the connotation when you say like, oh, you're such a good father to a black person, what happens is that black person says, well, the assumption is that black men aren't good fathers. If you see an intelligent black person, they say, oh, you're so articulate like they did to Obama. The assumption is, well, aren't other black people not intelligent? I know that may or may not be what you mean because you might have a stereotype as black people being less than. I mean, look, we grew up in a racist society. That you may have those stereotypes, it's society. That is the reason I'm ever forgiven to everybody because it's hard to get away from what society has taught you. But again, that's how a lot of people take those kind of words. Let me see if I can go through this real quick. And some other day we'll have the complete racial show. Notice I told Ben Dixon I never used to do race. Now that I have a bigger audience, etc., I can do that without feeling like, oh my God, I go talk race and I'm going to lose, these people or that. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Anyhow, let's go ahead and continue. British MCP, welcome aboard. Who else is here? Lee Grant. Yeah, I called you out, Lee Grant, because you've been giving me hell. Linda E, I think I called you out. I'm going up. If I miss you, Eric Hayes, if I miss you, drop me a line to the bottom and I'll get back to it as I scroll back down. Because I like to make sure and call out all my peeps. I think I'm near the top. Okay, AVQ, I don't think I see anybody else. Pamela Mata, I think I got you. Nancy Warshawski, welcome aboard. All right, I'm going back down to the bottom now in case any new messages came in. Whoa. Mucho. Of course, Rudnin always has a task for me, right? When the show is coming to an end, Egberto, after the show, will you? Okay, so let's see what task Brother Rudnin has for Egberto today. Brother Rudnin, what task do you have for me? After the show, take a minute and watch I absolutely will. Norman says we need to discuss the difference between cancel culture and paying the appropriate price. Norman, I've got a challenge for you, my brother. You owe me a show. You said you were going to come onto the show where we're going to do a thing together, and I think that was one of the subjects. So the answer to my good brother Norman Reynolds is I am not going to do it unless you do it with me. Okay, let's see who else did. Nanette Bird Smith, how you doing, my dear friend? Nanette Bird Smith. And let's see who else. Let's see. Mary says, thanks for schooling your audience regarding well intentions. Absolutely, my dear friend. But look, guys, I got to get out of here. It's 4:01. I got to try to keep these things at 1 minute because when it's played either at KPFT or when it's played at other podcasts, I got to cut it to make the time, and I don't want to do a lot of work. Anyhow, look, you guys are wonderful. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. Love you all. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.